thank you for your grace and mercy towards us. We thank you, Lord, for reviving us both physically and spiritually. We thank you for the lunch that you have provided for us so graciously to nourish our bodies. And now, Lord, as we consider your way of righteousness again, we ask for the presence of the Holy Spirit, that we allow the word to settle in our hearts and to transform our characters in preparation for your coming. Thank you for hearing our prayer in Jesus' name. Good evening. I hope you're well. And revived. Just to recap on our previous lesson. We've seen that during the period of the 1260, the church in union with the state oppressed God's people. And so God creates a nation and the church to be an asylum. And the principle behind all of that was the principle of Protestantism, which is that God's people should have liberty. And as I was speaking to Brother Sepo outside after this lecture, he pointed out something. Because we were establishing that it is through religious liberty that the complete human being will experience full development. We've established that it's through religious liberty that an individual is to develop fully. Because it's in an environment of freedom that the intellect develops. So it's not just the intellect, it's the morals as well. From our studies of the nature of man, where does the intellect and the morals fall? It's the higher powers. In order to develop fully intellectually and morally, in order for the higher powers to fully be developed, there must be an environment of religious liberty. This is the secret behind the glory of the United States. And that is why we are studying in Acts 27 that the USA, the history of the US and the history of the SDA Church are closely linked. The United States was created for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. To guarantee civil and religious liberty. For the development of the 144,000. And it is that agenda that God has in this reform movement. Because when the princes protested 490 years ago, when the princes of Europe protested, 490 years ago, that was the beginning that is going to define the end. And God wants to re-establish religious and civil liberties. But we know that the man of sin is not having the same plan. So in order for your higher powers to be fully developed, God has given us the greatest gift ever, which is religious liberty. So now I want us to go Because we've established religious liberty is a fundamental human right, right?
Khona lapho ngifuna siye khona ngoba sesibonile ukuthi ke ukukhonza ngokukhululeka kuyimfundiso okuyiyo noma efanele sibe nayo.
But please do not misunderstand me. I'm not saying we should do anything anyhow anyway.
Kodwa ningangizwa kabi ukuthi ke kufanele senze noma kanjani noma ikuphi.
We're going to look now at it's like a coin with two sides.
Sizobuka manje ke into enjengemali enemasayidi amabili.
Religious liberty is your fundamental human right.
Inkolo iyona ke kuleko yakho.
But you're under obligation. You have an obligation to God, a duty.
Oh, unomsebenzi okumele uwenze kuNkulunkulu.
So we're going to look at why man was created.
Sizobheka ukuthi kungani umuntu wadala.
Because we've established that the first duty of a human being is to his creator.
Ngoba ke sesibonile ukuthi umsebenzi wokuqala umuntu amele wenze noma amele wazi uNkulunkulu.
That is what religion is. It is your duty to your creator.
Inkolo yilokho umsebenzi wakho kumdali wakho.
And you need to discharge that duty.
And lo msebenzi kumele uwenze futhi.
Liberty simply guarantees that you will do that without restriction.
Inkululeko iveza khona lokho ukuthi uzowenza lo msebenzi ngaphandle kokuvimbezeleka.
So we want to define this duty that we have to God.
Sifuna ukuveza lokho ke okufanele sikwenze phambi kaNkulunkulu.
Because it's going to help us understand how to discharge this duty.
Kuzosenza silekelele ukuthi sikwenza kanjani lokho phambi kaNkulunkulu.
And so, to consider that, we need to go back to the story of creation and how we were made. Let's look at Genesis 1:27. Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them.
uNkulunkulu wamdala umuntu ngomfanekiso wakhe, wamdala ngomfanekiso kaNkulunkulu, wabadala owesilisa nowesifazane.
So we were created in the image of God.
Sadalwa ngomfanekiso kaNkulunkulu.
But sometimes we don't quite understand what that means.
Kodwa futhi isikhathi asikuqondisisi kahle lokho ukuthi ngabe kusho ukuthini.
The place of the Bible in education,
Incwadi le ayibhalayo,
page 112.
ikhasi lela shilo ashilo.
I'm going to read from paragraph 3. Again, the only true object of education
Futhi iyona nto qiniso yenhloso yemfundo.
Is to restore the image of God in the soul.
Ubuyisa umfanekiso kaNkulunkulu kumphefumulo kwanye emphefumulweni.
And it is with the mind that we serve the law of God.
Futhi kusemqondweni la siphilela khona uNkulunkulu ngomthetho wakhe.
No greater gift can possibly be bestowed upon any soul
Asikho isipho esikhulu esingafakwa emphefumulweni womuntu
than the service of the law of God.
kunokuthi umuntu aphilele okanye asebenzele uNkulunkulu.
No higher, more honorable position can ever be attained
Awekho amandla ahloniphekileyo angathi avezwe
by any creature than to serve the law of God.
ngesinye isidalwa ngaphandle ukuthi kuvezwe okanye kuhlonishwe umthetho kaNkulunkulu.
That is to be in his whole being,
ukuthi ke umuntu abe umuntu ophelele,
so completely in harmony with God
aphelele futhi ahambisane noNkulunkulu,
that every thought,
ukuthi yonke imicabango,
every motive,
yonke inhloso,
and every action will be the perfect reflection of the will of God.
zonke futhi nezenzo ziphelele phambi okanye ekwenzeni intando kaNkulunkulu.
And with the mind,
Futhi nangomqondo
this service is accomplished.
lo msebenzi uyapheleliswa okanye uyaphelela.
The mind is the root from which all else in the individual springs.
Umqondo uyimpande umqondo uyimpande la khona yonke into yomuntu ivela khona.
The mind is the pivot
Umqondo uyinto eveza
upon which all else turns.
yonke into la izungeza khona.
This being so,
Lokhu kukhulumeka kanjena
it is certain that in the very nature of things,
kuyiqiniso ukuthi ke kwimvelo yezinto
in the existence of the individual,
ekuveleni komuntu ngamunye
in all education, the knowledge of the mind is first in importance.
kuyo yonke imfundo
In all education,
kuyo yonke imfundo
the knowledge of the mind is first in importance.
ulwazi lomqondo ulwazi lomqondo ilana uqala khona ukubaleka.
Okay, so in trying to understand why God made us in the image, in His own image,
Examine uqondo ukuthi ungani uNkulunkulu wasidala ngomfanekiso wakhe.
this quote is telling us what it really embraces.
Lesi sicaphuno sisitshela ngokusobala ukuthi yini ekumele sithakasele.
Because A.T. Jones says here
Ngoba u-A.T. Jones uthi lapha
that the highest thing a created being can do
uthi ke into ephezulu noma ezinga eliphezulu umuntu angayenza
is to serve the Lord God.
ukuthi ke aphile ukwenza umthetho kaNkulunkulu.
There is no created being higher than the human being, right? Unless we are talking about angels.
Akekho ke umuntu engaphezulu edalwe ngaphezulu
Human being.
komuntu ngaphandle kwezingelosi.
Yes. Yeah, but when it comes to earthly things and God creating the heavens and the earth,
Uma sisiza kwezinto zisemhlabeni kunezulu nomhlaba,
and He has created the plants and the animals,
wadala ke izihlahla, izithelo kanye nezilwane.
man is the crowning act of
Umuntu
God's creating work.
umqhele wazonke lezi zinto.
So there is no higher, more honorable position that can ever be attained by any creature
So asikho izinga eliphezulu noma elihloniphekile isigaba esiphezulu esingaphathwa isidalwa
than to serve the law of God
ngaphandle ukuthi kwenziwe umthetho kaNkulunkulu.
and to fulfill the will of God.
Nanokuthi futhi isidala siwugcwalise umsebenzi okanye umthetho kaNkulunkulu.
To live in harmony with that law.
Ukuphila ngokuthula nomthetho kaNkulunkulu.
So let's just say that the most intelligent person on this planet
Ake sithi ke umuntu ohlakaniphe kakhulu nawo bonke la emhlabeni
will be the person that reflects the most this image.
umuntu ozoveza kakhulu lokho esikhuluma ngakho.
In the eyes of the world, it's about how well you pass exams, right?
Emhlabeni ke siphila kwona ukuthi uphasa kangakanani esikoleni okanye evasini.
Or how quick you can answer questions
Nanokuthi uphendula kangakanani imibuzo futhi.
and get out of a tricky situation.
Uphinde futhi uphendule imibuzo ethanda ukwabucayi.
But in the eyes of God, the more you reflect His image,
Kodwa emehlweni kaNkulunkulu kathi uveze isipilo sikaKristu,
the greater you are coming to fulfill the purpose for which you were created.
ila usondela khona ukuveza inhloso odalelwe yona.
And this relationship between God and man
Lokubudlelwano phakathi kwaNkulunkulu nomuntu
is supposed to be 100% harmonious.
kufanele kube ubudlelwano obuphelele 100%.
In fact,
ngokuthula.
So deep a harmony should exist between you and God, between me and God,
Ubudlelwano obujulile obufanele kube khona phakathi kwami noNkulunkulu.
that every thought you think
Ukuthi yonke imicabango oyicabangayo
and the motives behind it,
nenhloso ngemuva kwemicabango oyicabangayo
every action
nezenzo futhi nazo
is in harmony with the will of God.
kufanele ihambelane nentando kaNkulunkulu.
That is the reason we were created. It was to reflect the glory of God.
Isona sizathu leso sasidalelwe sona ukuveza uNkulunkulu ekuphileni kwethu.
So when we talk about the duty that we owe to the Creator,
Uma sikhuluma ngomsebenzi esiwukoletayo esiwukoleta ngayo uNkulunkulu,
this is the duty.
iwona msebenzi ke lo.
That every thought you think, every action, every motive behind the thought and the action is to be in line with the will of God.
Ukuthi umcabango wenzayo izenzo zenzayo inhloso ngemuva kwalokho umcabango nezenzo kumele ihambelane nokwenza intando kaNkulunkulu.
So when it comes to discharging this duty,
Uma sekuza ke ekutheneke kwenzeke lo msebenzi,
it has to be driven by this obligation that you know you owe to the Creator.
kumele kwenze uhambisana ukuthi ke uyamkweleta uNkulunkulu.
So we know it can't just be haphazard.
Siyazi ukuthi ngeke kwenzeke nje ngokuhlakazeka noma ngokungacabangisisi.
It's a freedom within the law of God.
Inkululeko ephakathi kwintando kaNkulunkulu.
And so God then had this mind in His mind.
uNkulunkulu vele lo mqondo emqondweni wakhe.
A mind that would reflect His own thoughts.
umqondo ozoveza imicabango yakhe.
So he created a body or a house for this mind.
Wakheke umzimba okanye indlu kulelo mzimba.
So I want to investigate more of this. Temperance, page 17.
Usake ukuveza okuthemba ngalokho sikhuluma ngakho kule ncwadi ayishilo.
TE 17. So God having made this plan to create man in his image, whose purpose it was to represent, reflect, manifest God, he then made a body. And it says in this quote, the lower estimate men place upon their body, the less they desire to keep it pure and holy, the more reckless will they be in the indulgence of perverted appetite.
Ngalenkathi abantu bezibekela phansi ngumzimba wabo, ingalenkathi kuba kuncane injongo yokugcina imizimba yabo imnene futhi ingcwele, ingalenkathi futhi bekwazi ukuthi bephile isinomi kanjani, bedle futhi isinomi kanjani.
So, in other words, the way you treat the body, you and I, the way you and I treat the body, when we've come to a knowledge of the law of God, it's a reflection of how much value we put on the body. I just want to step back a bit to 80 John. We're reading PBE, it's the place of the Bible in education. We're going to read page 112, paragraph 2. From paragraph 1. He has said that he made man in his own image. Man was to reflect, to manifest God, not himself. God made the mind of man that each faculty should be the faculty of the divine mind. Should be the highest created means of expressing or representing the divine mind. All created things are an expression of the thought of God. For by the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. Okay. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. So everything created is an expression of God's thought. When it comes to the creation of man, he says, the creation of man was the crowning of creation. Therefore, the mind of man is the highest created means of reflecting, representing, and expressing the thought of God. I don't have the language to really break this down.
Anginalo ulimi ongathi ngithi ngiveza ngathi lento kucacileyo.
But if you picture God as a designer,
Kodwa umcabanga uNkulunkulu njengomakhi,
just like the designer of a most beautiful car,
njengomuntu okhanda imoto enhle,
the person that designs that car
umuntu okhanda leyo moto oyisungulayo
has a thought that he wants to express.
unomcabango afuna ukuveza.
That's why they are designed differently, they look differently, people like different cars.
Ingakho imoto ezihlukahlukene bazakha vele zihlukahlukene.
The one thinks is beautiful, another person doesn't think it is.
Omunye ibonile omunye akayiboni kanjalo.
But even when it comes to an earthly thing such as a car, you know the thoughts of the designer are in that vehicle.
Ngisho sesizana endweni nasemhlabeni uyazi ukuthi umuntu okhandele imoto imicabango yakhe ibilapho ekhandele kwemoto.
It's the way this person wants to express himself to the world.
Indlela umuntu afuna ukuveza ngayo le emhlabeni aphila kuwo.
So he wants the front to look a certain way, the back to look a certain way. He has a thought he's expressing.
Unendlela efuna iphambili lemoto ibuye ngayo ingemumva kanti nayo yonke nje imoto ifuna indlela efuna ibuye ngayo.
And because God spoke, created by speaking things into existence.
Kanti futhi uNkulunkulu mayekhanda noma edala uwenza izinto eveza.
We know words are actually the product of thoughts.
Siyazi ukuthi amazwi awumphumela womcabango.
So God was literally thinking things into existence.
Kahle hle uNkulunkulu wayecabanga izinto ukuba zibe khona.
But when he wants to make the best product of all
Kodwa
products,
mase ufuna ukwenza umkhiqizo oyiwona ophelele.
he creates the human mind.
Ukhanda umuntu ingqondo yakhe.
The human mind is the best way, the highest way in which God's thoughts can be expressed.
Ingqondo yomuntu lapho uNkulunkulu eziveza khona ukuthi nguNkulunkulu ophelele.
As if when you and I sit down and we think,
Kanje ukuthi uma mina nawe hlala phansi sicabanga.
our obligation is to represent God to those around us.
Inhloso yethu uveza uNkulunkulu noma yikuphi la sikhona ngisho.
So whatever you speak, whatever you're thinking, and whatever your actions are,
Noma yini oyikhulumayo noma abe yini oyenzayo
to the highest level possible,
noma yini oyicabangayo kwizinga eliphezulu elikhona
you are communicating to your neighbor
uxhumana nomakhelwane wakho
about who God is.
ngokuthi uNkulunkulu ubani.
And that is a grave, grave responsibility.
Lo-ke umsebenzi omkhulu kakhulu.
And I'm not sure if we really recognize the magnitude, the extent of this responsibility that God has placed on our shoulders.
Angazi uma siyabona yini ukuthi unganani umsebenzi uNkulunkulu asibekele wona ukuba siveze.
Especially those who are seeking to be among the 144,000.
Ikakhulukazi labo abafuna ukuba yingxenye yokuba isixuku se-150,000.
So as God is cutting out this stone from the mountain,
Ngale kathi uNkulunkulu ehlephula lamatshe ezintabeni.
number one, he wants us to understand what religious liberty is all about.
Okokuqala uNkulunkulu ufuna siqonde ukuthi inkululeko yenkolo iyini.
Because when you do understand that principle,
Ngoba ke uma ngabe uqonda lowo mgomo,
the principle of Protestantism,
umgomo wamaProtestani,
it will allow you to develop to the highest intellectual moral level possible.
kuzokwenza ukuthi ube nezinga eliphezulu eliphakeme futhi.
It will permit your higher powers
Kuzovumela izinga lakhe eliphakeme
to be so fully developed that the lower powers are put in their right place.
lizovela ngendlela ukuthi izinga lakho elingaphansi libekwe endaweni yalo.
What is this condition we talk about when the higher powers are governing the lower powers?
Isiphi lesimo esikhuluma ngaso lapho na izinga lakhe eliphezulu lilawula izinga lakho elingaphansi noma eliphansi?
What condition is that?
Isiphi leso simo?
The condition of what?
Isimo esithini bazalwane?
It's the condition of perfection.
Isimo sokuphelela.
Why do we sin?
Sonelani kahle hle?
It's because the higher powers have been so bullied by the lower powers, they can't express themselves.
Sona ngoba izinga lethu eliphezulu linyaziwe izinga lethu eliphansi. Lilawula izinga eliphansi lethu.
That is why we understand.
Ingakho siqonda ukuthi
When sin came into the world,
uma ngabe sono singena emhlabeni,
nothing happened to the higher powers,
ayikho into eyenzeka ezingeni lethu eliphezulu.
but something happened to the lower powers and they became perverted.
Kodwa ikhona into eyenzeka ezingeni lethu eliphansi futhi kwaphambuka.
The reason we sin is because in that moment, your higher powers are so suppressed they can't protected.
Izathu sokuthi sona ingoba ke abezinga eliphezulu liyacindezeleka bese uyona.
Education 15,
Incwadi sifundayo education
page 15, paragraph 1.
ikhasi 15 isicaphulo sokuqala.
When Adam came from the Creator's hand,
Inkathi uAdam eqhamuka esandleni somdali,
he bore in his physical, mental, and spiritual nature
wayekade enesakhamzimba, umqondo futhi nakwezikamoya kwezemvelo. Wayekade enalezimo zontathu kwezemvelo.
a likeness to his maker.
Enokufana kumdali wakhe.
God created man in his own image.
uNkulunkulu wadala umuntu ngomfanekiso wakhe.
And it was his purpose
Futhi kwakuyinhloso yakhe
that the longer man lived, the more fully he should reveal this image.
ukuthi ngenkathi umuntu ephila isikhathi eside kumele aveze umfanekiso kaKristu.
The more fully reflect the glory of the Creator.
Aphinde aveze kakhulu ngokuphelele inkazimulo yomdali wakhe.
Since 1989, we know light has been shining on our path.
Kusukela ngesikhathi sokuphela sethu 1989 ukukhanya lokho kuqhubeka kuvela.
Greater and greater and greater light.
Ukukhanya okunamandla okukhulu lokho kuqhubeka kuvela.
When we understood 9/11, we were, wow, this is fantastic.
Uma siqonda isikhathi sa-9/11 sathi lokhu kuyamangaza.
When Ezra 7:9 was opened up, a whole new world of truth was
Incwadi kaEzra
opened
7:9
up to
sibona
us.
nakhona samangala kakhulu.
And now with the midnight cry, the light is so almost blinding.
Namanje futhi sibona ke iphakathi nobusuku nakhona futhi ukukhanya kuqhubeka kuyavela.
It's as if the information we need to absorb has all of a sudden exploded and there's just not enough time.
Ingazuthi ulwazi esinalo manje selifuna ukuthi liqhume ngesikhathi ngathi asikho kahle.
Because this is again a testimony to the fact that God created us to ever continually advance.
Yilento yokufakaza khombisa uNkulunkulu usidalele ukuthi siqhubekele phambili siqhubeza inkazimulo yakhe.
So in fact, the older you are, the more you should be reflecting in God's image.
La ukhula khona kahle kahle la ukhula khona lapho ufuna ukuveza khona inkazimulo kaNkulunkulu.
It's designed that way. We're designed that way.
Sakhelwe kanjalo nje.
Imagine if you could play the piano.
Uyacabanga mase udlale nayo insimbi la piano.
And you practiced every day for 70 years.
Ebese uyayilokhu uziqeqesha ngayo iminyaka e-70.
The brain is designed to ever expand.
Umqondo wakhele ukuthi uqhubeleke wande.
And the first time you try to play that instrument, you're so poor at it.
Mawuqala nje uyisebenzisa uyidlala ngathi akuzi kahle.
Your hands need to loosen up to learn how to move along the keyboard.
Izandla zakufanele zijwayele ukuthamba ukuze ukwazi ukuyithinta ngendlela okuyiyo.
Those are neurons that need to be developing at every stage.
Izinto lezi zakhamzimba kufanele zijwayele ukuthi isetshenziswa kanjani.
You know, the brain is designed in this way.
Umqondo wakhelwe kanjena.
That the more you do something,
Kwanenkathi into yenza kaningi
the better you become at it.
ila khona uyenza kahle kangcono.
So imagine if you had 70 years to practice piano playing and you
Uyacabanga
could do it every day.
uqeqesha ukupiyano.
How good you could become.
Ungaba muhle kangakanani kuwona.
God designed us for ever increasing advancement.
uNkulunkulu sakhele kanjani nathi siqhubeleke sikhazimlise.
It's His purpose.
Kuyinhloso yakhe leyo.
And all the faculties are capable of development.
Zonke izakha umzimba ziyakwazi ukwenza lokho.
So when we age and we begin to complain about memory,
Uma siqala besibalisa ngokucabanga kwethu noma ngokucabanga kwethu.
it is because we don't understand why God created us.
Ingoba asiqondi ukuthi kungani uNkulunkulu asidalana.
Vigor is to continually increase.
Kufanele siqhubeleke kwande lokho uNkulunkulu asibekele khona.
I once gave this example about Solomon.
Ngiyani ngenza isibonelo ke ngoSolomon.
You know, Solomon was a botanist.
uSolomon wayeyibotanist.
Botanist is an expert in plants.
Umuntu ojula kuthoko uma kuyinhlelo ezithile.
He was an ornithologist.
Wayelelo hlobo lomuntu.
That's an expert of ornithology, insects. An insect? Like insects. Ants like bees, ants.
Okay. Wayesolwazi we-intwana okanye we-nambuzane.
I don't know, maybe I got that wrong. Entomologist, he was also a zoologist, and we know him to be the wisest man that ever lived.
Simazi futhi njengomuntu wayehlakaniphe kakhulu esibaziyo eBhayibhelini.
And everybody says, oh, well, that was Solomon.
Oh, bantu bebazi hayi Solomon ke lo.
But Solomon was a human being.
Kodwa futhi Solomon singakhohlwa ukuthi wayemuntu njengathi.
God is no respecter of persons.
Umuntu ayena umhloniphi uNkulunkulu ayena umhloniphi womuntu.
Solomon gained all that knowledge because he asked for it.
uNkulunkulu amnikeza lokho ngoba wakucela uSolomon.
What are we asking for?
Yini esicela kuNkulunkulu?
If you are understanding that you're created to reflect more and more the image of God,
Uma ngabe uwazi ukuthi wakhelwe noma ubizelwe ukuveza isimilo sikaNkulunkulu.
okay, fine. Maybe we don't want to become experts in insects.
Mhlawumbe asifuna uba yindlu laptop zenambuzane.
But this message is ever progressively developing.
Kodwa le myalezo esiyifundayo iyaqhubeleka iyanda.
And this is to be a forever situation, you know.
Isimo sethu lesike saphakade.
We are going to continue to learn even into eternity.
Ngisho nasemaphakadeni sizoqhubeka sifunde.
So here now we are to be the best
So la sikhona kufanele sibeke abaphelele emfundeni.
in every respect and develop according to the current release of knowledge and information.
Ekupheleliseni nokuqhubeleka kokwanda kolwazi.
So that's why we need to understand why God created the body.
Ingakho kufanele siqonde ukuthi ingani uNkulunkulu awukhanda lo mzimba.
The body is the house of this mind that is to reflect God.
Umzimba uyindlu la umqondo la uNkulunkulu ekwazi ukuveza khona.
And God has put such a high price on the body. God has put a high price on the body.
uNkulunkulu ubeke inani eliphezulu emzimbeni yethu.
That's why we have rules and regulations about how we are to treat that body within the precincts of religious liberty.
Ingakho sinemgomo nemibandela ukuthi semzimba siyiphatha kanjani ngaphansi kwenkolo nomsebenzi kumele siwenze.
So let's imagine this is Adam. He has just been created.
Ake sicabanga ukuthi nawo uAdam uqeda kwakhiwa nje.
In order to reflect God to the highest possible degree,
Ukuze aveze isimilo sikaKristu ngendlela ephakeme.
let's list down the things he should be able to do.
Ake sibhaleni izinto okufanele ngabe uyazenza.
I'll give you a clue.
Nginikeza nje umzekelo.
Because the silence means it's such a big question.
Umbuzo usho ukuthi hayi ngathi umbuzo ophakeme.
So after God created Adam, what's the first task he gave him to perform?
Emveni kokuNkulunkulu adala uAdam, yiphi into yokuqala efuna ukuthi ayenze?
To name the animals. How did he name the animals?
Ukuthi aqambe izilwane, waqamba kanjani?
Yes, Pierre?
He had speech. He could talk.
He had to have speech.
Kufanele ukuthi akhulume uAdam.
What does the Bible say? How did he name the animals? So that's
Lithi
important.
iBhayibheli uwaqamba kanjani izilwane?
He?
Wenze njani?
He? Yes, they did.
Lord,
He reflected the mind of God, named them exactly the way
He named them what they were.
Waziqamba njengoba zinjalo, waveza umqondo kaNkulunkulu ngokuziqamba.
So Adam did not call an elephant, just think, okay, I like this word.
Akazange athi nje indlovu lokubona kho lithanda leli gama limbiza kamnandi.
Embraced within that word elephant
Kulelo gama lelo elithi indlovu.
was a complete description of the creature.
Kwakuyinto ephelele ukuthi kufanele ube indlovu le.
And though when we read these passages, we pass by it, you know, carelessly and don't really it doesn't click in our minds what the verse is actually saying.
This is lama verses siyawafunda nje singanawo ukuthi kahle hle asho ukuthini.
But when God parades the animals in front of Adam,
Kodwa uNkulunkulu mayihambisa izilwane phambi kwaAdam,
the spirit of prophecy tells us he could tell just by looking at it the purpose that God had in mind in creating it.
uma isiprofesa sitshela ukuthi uNkulunkulu wayenenhloso ekusikhandelwa kuNkulunkulu noAdam naye futhi ekuthenini aziqambe zonke.
So what that says is that God had a purpose for every single creature.
Lento sitshela ukuthi uNkulunkulu wayenenhloso ngesilwane okanye ngesitalo sakhe asibekileyo emhlabeni.
Animals in this case.
Izilwane kodwa kusikhuluma ngakho kakhulukazi.
And that just by looking at it, Adam could tell the mind of God.
ngokusibuka uAdam wayekwazi ukuveza umqondo kaNkulunkulu.
His mind was so in harmony with God that he could tell the thoughts of God.
Umqondo wakhe ohambelana nomqondo kaNkulunkulu ngokuthi akwazi ukuthi aziqambe.
So by naming the animals, he was reflecting the what? The image of God.
Ngokusiqamba uAdam wayekade eveza umfanekiso kaNkulunkulu.
Some of us here will see a cat and kick it.
Abanye bethu bazobona ikati balikhahlele.
Right?
Angithi
It's because you don't know why God created.
ngoba wazi ungazi uNkulunkulu adala ikati.
You see a vulture and you're revolted by it.
Ubona inyoni bese uyacasuka.
You don't know why God created it.
Awazi ungazi uNkulunkulu ayidalayo.
You eat between meals because you don't know why God gave you a body space.
Udla phakathi nokudla nokumangabe isikhathi.
When we transgress the natural laws,
Uma ngabe siphula imithetho yezempilo
it's because number one, we don't understand religious liberty, and number two, we don't understand the purpose for which we were created.
okokuqala ingoba sikwenza lokhu siphula konke lokhu ngoba siqonda inhloso yokukhonza ngokukhululeka nenjongo uNkulunkulu asibekele yona.
So unlike speech, number two,
Ngiyathanda lokho ukuthi ke inkulumo okwesibili kuphi
what is he going to be speaking?
yini azobe ekhuluma Adam nami sedaliwe
It's thoughts. Thoughts make up words,
uzobe
right?
ekhuluma imicabango ngithi
But whose thoughts?
kodwa imicabango kabani ayikhulumayo
It should be whose thoughts? Is it my thoughts?
wami noma
God's thoughts.
imicabango kaNkulunkulu
Because we were created to reflect the image of God.
ngoba sidalelwe ukuveza umfanekiso kaNkulunkulu.
Therefore, in the deep recesses of you and my mind,
Ngoba ke ekujuleni kokucabanga kwethu kwami
what is the content?
ithini ke ingqikithi
Knowledge?
ulwazi
What should be the content?
ithini ingqikithi konke lokhu
Should we be careful what our thoughts are?
kumele siqaphele ukuthi nayo imicabango yethu ithini
Because the thoughts are going to become words and words will become
ngoba
actions.
imicabango yethu izoba amagama esiwakhiphayo.
What's the other requirement?
Iyiphi enye into
I mean, yeah, so Adam needs to be able to speak the thoughts of God.
yini futhi okunye singabala la
What else should he have capacity to do?
yini enye futhi kufuneke yenzeke
How about motion?
singathi sithi imizwa
Yes, no?
yebo cha
No?
cha
Yes?
yebo
Should man be able to move around?
ngabe umuntu kumele akwazi ukuthi anyakaze
Because what work was he given to do after naming the animals? What
yini
work was
umsebenzi ofuneka wenze emva kokuba sedaliwe
to dress the garden? So what does he need to do to dress the garden? He
yini
needs to
efuneka
move around.
awugqokise igadi
And what else he needs to do?
yini enye efuneka yenze
He needs to have strength to lift things, to push,
kumele abe namandla
to
okuziphakamisa
run,
aziphushe azidonse
to
agijime
jump.
agqume futhi
If he had to dress a tree up high,
kube wazogqokisa isihlahla eside
you know, we will only take care of the body to the extent that we understand why it was put, built the way it was.
sinakele umzimba ngoba siqonda ukuthi kungani uNkulunkulu wawukhanda.
I promised you that we were going to launch into health. This is about health. All this religious liberty is about health.
Yonke le nkululeko yokukhonza imalana nezempilo
You can apply it to any other aspect of your life,
ungayibeka ngeyindlela yokuphila futhi
but I'm addressing health.
kodwa mina ngiveza ezempilo la
And I'm saying that nobody should dictate to you how you should eat or dress,
akekho umuntu okumele akulwise ukuthi kumele udle kanjani ugqoke kanjani
because God has guaranteed you religious liberty.
ngoba uNkulunkulu uyenzile inkululeko yokuthi-ke umkhonze ngemkhululeko
But you need to understand how you were built.
kodwa kumele uqonde ukuthi ukhandeke kanjani
Because some of the transgressions, because we have no understanding why certain things should be the way they are.
ngoba izinto siyaziphula ngoba siqonde ukuthi kumele sizenze kanjani
When it comes to dress reform, health
uma siza
reform,
kwezokugqoka kwezokudla
all these reforms, what we are doing
lonke
now in the
loguquko
movement
esikwenza njengamanje kuguquko ukuthi
is we police each other.
siyapholisha nje izinto
We become rebellious
siyalwa
because of lack of knowledge.
ngoba ukuthi ulwazi asinalo luphelele
So we want to understand and recognize that God has given us the power of speech to utter His thoughts.
saqonda uNkulunkulu usinikeze amandla okukhuluma ukuze siveze imicabango yakhe
He has given us bodies, these machines that should be able to move.
Usinikeze futhi ke imizimba le ukuze sikwazi ukunyakaza ngendlela esinyakaza ngayo.
Because Adam was to be a tiller of the ground.
Ngoba ke uAdam kufanele akwazi umhlabathi ukusebenza.
What else?
Yini enye futhi?
Okay, the faculties, maybe the senses, should we say?
Singasho sithi ke ukuzwa.
What's the purpose of the senses?
Yini inhloso ke yemizwa?
Smell, to hear, to see.
Why?
Kungani ukubona, ukuzwa?
What's the job of the senses?
Yini inhloso yemizwa?
So you should be able to see, to smell, to hear. Why?
Ukuzwa, ukubona.
It allows you to interact with your environment.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
purpose of the senses is to interact with the environment.
Ukuthi sikwazi ukuxhumana nemvelo.
How is Adam going to dress a garden if he can't interact with it?
Uzokwazi kanjani uAdam ukuthi agqokise imvelo ukuthi kungakwazi ukuxhumana naye?
So God has designed this machine to be in touch with the environment around him.
uNkulunkulu ukhandele umshini okanye lomzimba ukuze ukwazi ukuxhumana nemvelo.
And that environment includes a cat and a vulture.
Leyo mvelo leyo ifaka phakathi inkati nezinyoni.
Yeah, I know we don't like those animals.
Ngiyazi sisithanda sisilahle lezo.
That's why I'm naming them.
Ingakho ngizibala.
So up to day 6, from day 1 of creation to day 6,
Kusukela usuku lokuqala kuze kufike usuku lesithupha.
God had made grass,
uNkulunkulu wenze utshani,
He made the herbs,
wenze amakhabi,
the fruit trees,
izithelo, ihlahla zezithelo,
the aquatic creatures,
izilwane
the sea creatures,
izilwane zaselwandle,
the birds,
izinyoni ngenhlobo zazo,
the mammals, and the creepy crawlers.
zonke ezihamba phansi.
And all these Adam is to interact with.
Zonke lezi zilwane kufanele zibe ukuxhumana phakathi kwazo noAdam.
So God requires a machine that can utter his thoughts.
uNkulunkulu ufuna ke umzimba uzokwazi ukuthi uveze umcabango wakhe.
It needs to move around as it interacts with the
Kufanele ukwazi
environment.
ukunyakaza kwimvelo yakhe.
That it
nomzimba.
includes all these creatures with
Oveza
with them.
ofune phakathi sifaka phakathi zonke lezi zinto esizibalile.
So how does God do it?
uNkulunkulu yenza kanjani ke lento?
Okay, I don't know the technicalities of what happened, really. The Bible only talks about how God then went down on his knees and began to mold man out of the dust of the ground.
Sitshela ukuthi uNkulunkulu wamkhanda umuntu wambumba umfanekiso wakhe.
So first God makes a structure
uNkulunkulu wenza ke isakhiwo,
and he makes it out of the dust of the ground.
usenza ke ngomhlabathi kanye ngobumba.
According to Crest Collection, page 45,
Ngokwale ncwadi leya esizoyifunda,
it's going to be the house in which this man lives.
kuzoba yindlu lapho na umuntu ephila khona.
And the house is built for movement.
Indlu futhi yakhelwe ukuba inyakaze,
It's built to last many years.
iyakhelwe futhi ukuthi ke ihlale isikhathi eside.
It's built to be self-defensive.
Iyakhelwe futhi ukuthi ke wazi ukuzivikela.
And the mind that is going to occupy this house
Umqondo ozokwazi ukuthi ke uhlalise lendlu
has been guaranteed religious liberty.
unikezwe igunya lokuthi ukwazi ukukhonza ngokukhululeka.
Freedom to choose.
Inkululeko yokukhetha.
But the body needs to perform certain duties.
Kodwa umzimba kumele wenze izinto ezithile zomzimba.
How much time do we have?
17 minutes.
17 minutes, okay. So we're going to begin with the construction of this structure.
Sizoveza isakhiwo salomzimba.
When you begin to construct something, where do you begin?
Uma uqala ukwakha into uqala kiphi?
Many answers. Hands up. Yes,
Impendulo
brother.
eziningi.
You start with the plan.
Okay. You start with the plan. So I guess we've been addressing the plan.
Ngicabanga ukuthi lokho la.
God wants to build a creature that will reflect himself to the highest possible level.
uNkulunkulu ufana
That's the plan.
naso ke icebo.
It should be able to utter the thoughts of God,
Kumele kwazi ukuthi aveze imicabango
to
kaNkulunkulu.
move around and interact with the environment.
Akwazi ukunyakaza futhi ahambe aphilisane nemvelo.
So after plan, what next?
Emveni kwecebo okanye kweplani kwenzakalani?
Lay the foundation.
Lay the foundation.
Ubeka isisekelo saleyo.
Yeah. Yes.
Ubese ubeka isisekelo sesakhiwo.
In terms of importance,
Esigabeni sokubaleka
we always consider the brain to be the most important organ in the human frame, right?
siye sithi ke ingqondo lebaluleke kakhulu nakho konke emzimbeni
Or do you have a different opinion?
okanye nokunye okuhlukile.
Which is the most important organ in the body?
Yini into ebaluleke kakhulu emzimbeni womuntu?
Mom. The most important organ in the body.
Isithuba esibaluleke kakhulu emzimbeni womuntu.
What do you think it should be?
Ngicabanga ukuthi yini?
The brain? The brain?
Ingqondo
Very, very important.
ibaluleke kakhulu.
The heart, yes.
Inhliziyo,
Yes. Yes, my brother. The mind, okay. The mind, brain. The brain is the instrument of the mind.
okay. Ingqondo iyithuluzi lekhaya.
Okay, so have you ever built a house starting with the roof?
Uyaqala ukwakho uqala ngengaphezulu lendlu.
What is a house without a foundation?
Eyini indlu ngaphandle kwesisekelo sayo?
And the foundation has to be built at the right spot. Yes. What's that?
So.
The brain.
Okay, I don't know about the soul.
Angazi kahle ke ngomphefumulo.
I don't really understand soul issue. But I know we're talking about organs of the body. The physical structure. Because God wants to put a mind in this structure. The mind that will utter the thoughts of God. And as this mind seeks to interact with the world around it, because the world is going to interact with is a physical world, so there's got to be some means of physically interacting with the world. Yes, Sister Baby.
I don't know if the organ, but the skeleton.
Okay. Do you see how our preconceived ideas immediately get challenged when you take things from cause to effect? Because now we're using the construction model and establishing that you cannot begin the house with a roof. Immediately it will collapse. So often we worry about our brains and we worry about the heart and never ever take time to consider the skeleton. And once the foundation is destroyed, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? You're going to be pushing to protect your brain and your skeleton is abandoned and neglected. When this is the framework, it is going to be the apparatus that allows motion. It's the set of tools that will allow the body to move around. It is the framework that is going to support all the other organs. Because all the other organs are attached to the skeleton somehow. In fact, it conceals some very critical organs, such as the brain and the heart. So, when I would like us to begin to understand how God has put us together, I want us to see that God went through some very, very common sense steps to building up the structure. And if we were created to reflect the thoughts of God, then we should approach the care of the body using this framework of God. And how He made us. Okay, mind is the thing that God created to reflect His glory, right?
Umqondo yinto ayivezile aveze inkazimulo yakhe.
But this mind was to live inside the body.
Kodwa futhi lo mqondo kumele uphile ngaphakathi emzimbeni.
It is only through this body that I am able to interact with the environment around me.
Yilo mzimba wenza ukuthi ngikwazi ukuxhumana nemvelo.
Okay, if my mind is happy,
Uma umqondo wami ujabulile.
and I'm not standing in front of you with a smile, how will you know?
Futhi angimile phambi kwenu ngimamatheka.
You will not know.
Ngeke nize nazi.
So the physical body is so important, is so beloved of God.
So umzimba lo uyathandeka uNkulunkulu, ubalekile futhi.
Because it's the means through which this mind is going to now reflect God.
Ngoba ithuluzi la uNkulunkulu ufanele avele khona.
And so it begins with the framework. It began with the framework.
So iqala ukuthi ke kube nesakhamzimba, okanye isakhamzimba lesi siyithi.
This framework is the skeletal system. This framework
Le mzimba lo
is the skeleton. The
ungamathambo.
bones. Yeah. The bone system.
Ungamathambo.
The bone system must have a number of qualities.
Ukwakheka kwamathambo kunezinto eziningi ezikhona.
We are studying health. Now we are dealing with the skeletal system. That's where we're going to begin our consideration of anatomy.
Ila soqala khona ke sibuke ukwakheka kwamathambo manje.
Because if you know how it was built,
Uma wazi ukuthi akheke kanjani
you will be better able to take care of it.
uzokwazi uwanakekele nawo futhi.
So, what are the properties of the skeletal system? What should it be able to do or not do?
Yini efuneka amathambo ke akwenze noma angakwenzi.
In order for this person to move around freely,
Ukuze lo mzimba ukwazi ukunyakaza ngokuphelele.
expressing the thoughts of God,
Aveza imicabango kaNkulunkulu futhi.
as we are interacting with one another and with God,
Njengalokhu siweza namunye ngomunye kanjalo futhi noNkulunkulu.
and with the creatures around us, the trees, the plants, the flowers.
uNkulunkulu ayikhandile.
What kind of skeletal system do we need?
Hlobo luni lokwakheka kwamathambo esidingayo.
It should be what?
Kumele kube umnjani.
What do you think it should be?
Sicabanga ukuthi kumele kube umnjani ukwakheka kwamathambo.
Sums of characteristics. It should be strong. You can hear that?
Yes.
It should be very strong.
Kumele kube aqinile amathambo.
So you knock me on the head, I fall down and I stand up.
Uyangishaya ekhanda nyawa ngiyaqala.
No broken bone.
Alikho ithambo eliphukile.
So when you see a child of 4 years old
Uma ubona ingane neminyaka emine.
who trips and falls and fractures a clavicle,
Ewe bese iyalimala emzimbeni.
there's something very wrong.
Khona into engahambi kahle leyo ngane.
Bones are supposed to be very strong
Amathambo kumele kube aqine kakhulu.
and what? Flexible. Okay,
Ukukhululeka.
I want you to tell me about flexible. Give me some more details about flexible.
It needs to be able to bend down. For instance, there's flowers that are so whatever. You need to bend down.
So it
if
means
it's still like stiff and standing and there's flowers that needs to work and then
so what are you describing then?
Joints.
Good. So if you didn't have joints, you'd be a statue. That's why statues don't bend, they don't move, they just stand still. No joints. In order for bones to be strong, how should we build them? How does God build the bones? Okay? They have a hole in the middle. Okay, so if we were building let's say we want to build a structure, a house, and we're going to use steel beams, and you want them to be strong. How are we going to build them? The beams that will support the whole structure. What have scientists discovered concerning this? Should we make it solid or hollow? Which one is stronger? Hollow? What's the science behind that? That this is stronger than that.
ukuthi lokhu kunamandla ukuqinile kunalokhu.
Bearing in mind that in terms of total circumference, this has more iron in it.
Lokhu kune-iron eningi kunalokhu.
So technically stronger.
Kodwa kunamandla.
More iron, strong.
Kune-iron eningi kunakho uqinile.
Just like the Iron Kingdom, we know it to be strong and crushes and
Lo mbuso we-iron
destroys.
nakho kuyahlaphaza.
Yes.
There's certain shapes that are stronger when they're combined. So, like for example, when you look at certain bridges, or an example of triangles and mesh that make something strong.
Right.
So there's lots of bulletproof vests that are actually mesh because that's stronger than a solid.
Yes. Actually, scientists have described this phenomenon that this hollow tube will be stronger than the solid one.
Ososayensi babonile ukuthi ke le ndawana iyona indawo eqinile kunale.
In fact, this one will break easier than this one.
Le izophuka kalula kunale.
And it's the same science behind the meshes that Sister Baby is talking about.
Isayensi efanayo esho udade lapha.
Did I see a hand? Yes.
Bones must connect together.
Yes.
Amathambo kumele ahlangane ndawonye.
They need to connect together, and that is the joints. And joints are very, very important because this is what makes motion fluid and not statue-like.
Lokhu kufanele kakhulu ukuthi amathambo ahlangane kwenza ukuthi ke ukwazi ukunyakaza kahle.
Also, bones need to be light.
Amathambo futhi kufanele abelula.
Not heavy.
Angasindi abelula.
Because imagine if we have all this bone structure and it's heavy.
Uyacabanga ukuthi nawo wonke lamathambo kodwa futhi asinda.
How difficult motion would be.
Kuzoba nzima kanjani ukuthi ke asebenze.
So God needed to construct something that was strong but light.
uNkulunkulu ufuneka enze into eqinile kodwa futhi elula ukuthi inyakaze.
And I think what Sister Zinhle was trying to suggest was elasticity.
Sister Zinhle benza ngokuveza ukuthi
So even though this structure is, even though it's hard, you know, bone is hard,
yazi ithambo liqinile.
but it also should be flexible so that it doesn't just easily break.
Kodwa futhi kumele likwazi ukunyakaza kalula ukuze lingaphuzi kalula futhi.
So in order to make the best product that is strong, light, and flexible,
Ukuze kwenzeke konke lokhu
God designed that the bones would be hollow inside. It's
ukuthi
hollow.
amathambo ahlangane engaphakathi.
But the structure that is solid is really not solid completely.
Kodwa isakhiwo esenziwe asithambile ngokuphelele.
It's like a mesh.
Kunjengemesh.
If you've eaten chicken before,
Uma bawayidla inyama ngaphambilini.
you know that the inside of a bone is hollow. There's
Uyazi
a
ukuthi
hole in it.
ithambo lenyama lithambile.
And then there's that bone marrow inside the
Kodwa
hole.
leyo nto le ngaphakathi enyameni ethanjeni.
But the bone itself, it's as if it has bubbles in it.
Ingathi
Like gaps and spaces in it.
ingathi linesikhala phakathi kulo.
So bone is meant to crisscross. It's like you've got these strands that crisscross each other all through the solid structure.
Uma ngingasifuna into engathi imi kanje phakathi ethanjeni lenyama.
That really makes bone very, very strong. It's very light, very strong.
Lelula futhi ukuthi likwazi ukunyakaza.
So the requirements are those three.
So izinto ke lezi zintathu.
And in order for bone to be hard,
Ukuze ke umzimba ube nzima,
you will need calcium,
udinga ke calcium,
you will need protein,
udinga ama protein,
you need phosphorus,
udinga ke phosphorus.
magnesium, zinc, many other minerals.
Zonke lezi zinto ziyadingakala.
The other thing is that bones are built with arches.
Enye into ukuthi ke imizimba yethu iyaqhubeka.
Like when you see a house that has a, yes, like,
It's an arc.
what do they call them?
The arc.
Arch.
Arch and arc.
An arch, yes,
Yeah.
but he needs an easier word than arch. You know these modern
Oh,
houses?
okay. Njengokuthi wapheka izinto eziyibhukwane, angithi yes.
Yeah. In construction, an arch is stronger than a straight structure.
Uma ngabe wakhe ibhukwane liqinile uma ngabe wakhe indlu eqondile.
arches. That's why you find in Europe, medieval Europe, they had these cathedrals and buildings. Often they are arched. Around the window, you see that it's round, not square. And some of those buildings still stand today. 400, 500 years later. And some of our modern structures are not even as strong. Okay, my time is up. But I've tried to describe the physical structure that God is trying to put into place. And we started with the skeletal system as the foundation. And if the foundation is strong, the body will be strong. So we'll build up on that. Shall we pray?
Ngoba uhlala ekhaya ezulwini, siyabonga Jehova. Onkuphila siphe khona. Siyabonga ngesifundo ezinjengalezi. Siyabonga Nkosi nangendlela umzimba yethu yakhandeke ngayo. Siyabonga ukuthi umfanekiso wakho. Siyacela Nkosi usilekelele njalo ukuthi siveze lokho ufuna sikufeze. Siveze isimilo sakho. Silekelele kakhulu ukuba senze intando yakhe emhlabeni njengoba yenza ekhaya ezulwini. Amasiko ekhaya ezulwini sikujwayele ukuphila impilo lokwenza intando yakho. Silekelela ngabanye uma umoya ongcwele ukhuthaza ukuphila kwethu kuba Nkosi senze okuyintando yakho. Sisize kuba ulungise ukuphila kwethu for iphakade lethu. Siyakholwa ukuthi sikule camp uzosilekelela ngabanye ukuba siqonde inhloso yakho, siqonde inhloso nathi osibizele yona. Siqonde Nkosi umsebenzi osibekele wona ukuze siwufeze kuze kube yakuyo. Siyabonga usibizela ubizo uphakeme ngale ndlela kuba Jehova senze umsebenzi ofunayo Nkosi kade wenziwa abaphathi bethu. Sithi Jehova silekelele sikhulise kwazini nasekuqondeni kuba Nkosi singabhaleli ngaphandle. Kepha Nkosi sithole uphawu lakho lokuhlala eqisweni lakho emzimbeni nasecabangeni. ngoJesu obusayo siyakholwa ukuba usilekelela manje kuzophakade. Amen.